All right, I'm making this video today because I want to shed some light on a journey of self-discovery in terms of faith and religion. I think a lot of people are thinking about this right now. It's top of mind. And ultimately, I want to kind of share my journey, a little bit of story time here, because I think that for people watching, it could be valuable to kind of understand what someone has gone through to kind of be on one side of the spectrum and then to be heading potentially over to the completely other side of the spectrum as well. I think right now there's kind of this resurgence in religion. It's becoming cool. You know, I heard this stat, I heard someone say the other day that there's more men under 30 going to church and finding their faith than any other time in history or something like that. So I don't know whether that's true or not. If you have information on that, please comment below. But I think it's really interesting. I'm going to touch on these things and kind of like why I've actually made the switch. Because I think for you at home watching, maybe you're interested in becoming more religious. Maybe you're the opposite. And this sort of perspective, insight, and story that I'm about to share in this video can be helpful or inspiring or maybe even just kind of educational on your journey. So for me, like starting as someone who like was a total atheist, like I remember I didn't have religion growing up. You know, I had both my grandmothers were somewhat religious and sometimes would either read me parts of the Bible, but very, very, very infrequently, or would convince me and my smaller like nuclear family to go to church maybe once a year. And there was several years where we didn't go at all. So I didn't really have that strong input. And because of that, I didn't have sort of like a leader in my life in the religious field. I was just kind of like a bag in the wind, just kind of floating, trying to like find my own way. And I think I stumbled upon atheism as a just like, I had no inputs from religion, going to church, private school, none of that. And all I had was just sort of like learning maybe science and astronomy and theory and stuff like that through school. And I think I was very like overly dominated by the logical side of my brain, and it was all about like logic and facts and this and that and doesn't make sense, do we have proof, yada yada yada. And that kind of like controlled my life until, if you flash forward, and that was all of like when I was a child, middle school, high school, and even like most of college. And then it wasn't until when I graduated college and I got more into like self-development and making money and productivity and just like all that stuff that I stumbled upon self-development books. I kind of started to go down the rabbit hole of like the power of positive thinking, manifestation, you are what you think about, you know, being intentional and visualization and focusing on goals and like all this sort of stuff, this sort of Pandora's box that opens up when you start to go down the rabbit hole of self-development. And I realized kind of through that process, even though I still don't know much about religion, but definitely didn't know much even like a couple of years back, there were a lot of parallels in the self-development world that there were to like religion and believing in God. And I talk about these series of these 3 self-help books that were self-development, very closely related, and they are Think and Grow Rich, Psycho-Cybernetics, and the Master Key System. And the way that I describe this to people is that Think and Grow Rich is like high school. Psycho-Cybernetics is like getting your undergraduate degree, and then the Master Key System is like the master's. And I say that because like as you go through reading those 3 books, they all kind of like are the same. They're talking about the same thing, but Think and Grow Rich is kind of like very like elementary, kind of beginner level, nothing crazy, versus you get to the Master Key System and it's like very esoteric, super deep, super advanced, like way more into the weeds. And what was interesting, Think and Grow Rich was like, it didn't talk about religion or really God, like I don't think at all. It's been a long time since I read it. But then the Master Key System mentioned like God and a little bit of religion, like all this stuff. And I was like, wait, hang on a second. I was like thinking to myself, we're talking about the same concepts here. And then I get to this last book and the word God and faith is like being thrown in there a ton. I'm like, wait, is there something similar here? Like, are there overlaps? And that really got me thinking. And I was like, wait, so these sort of unspoken laws of the universe that I'm learning about, that some of the most hyper successful people across all of time have used to reach their wild and outlandish dreams and get everything that they ever wanted and like be super successful in all, definitions of the word, are using these tactics. And there's a religious aspect, like this relates. And so I started to like really think about that. And I thought that was really interesting. And then my mom, actually, of all people, who's not someone who's religious, sent me this, it was sort of like a meme. It was more like an infographic on Instagram one day. And I wish I could get it. Maybe I'll throw it up here. I'll leave a link to it if I can find it. But essentially what it was is it was saying, scientists call it universe. Astrophysicists call it quantum physics. Spiritual people call it energies. Muslim people say Allah. Christians say God. And then it's like, but they're all talking about the same thing. And that kind of like blew my mind, because you do see all of these like, we can't actually prove it type things and laws of the universe when you read about manifestation, self-help, or even like in the religious realm. And so it's like, it just made me realize, it's just like, oh, that was like an aha moment, that when I was reading that infographic, it's like, oh, all of these people who on the surface, you could say disagree. The guy that talks about astronomy and quantum physics, he does not agree with the believer in God. But the thing is, they're talking about the same thing. They're both these unexplainable phenomenon that they're talking about, whether it's, you want to call it energies or quantum physics and how this works and blah, blah, or you want to say that it's God, this is the power of God, and this is faith and the belief, and this is what God does and how he helps, blah, blah. Like, we're talking about the same things that end up manifesting in the way that we see humans go about certain things in the world and making things happen. They just call it different things, and they choose to explain it in different ways. It's basically like the wrapping paper. It's like, we can all agree, we all see this one box, and this box is the truth. This box has everything that we need. It's the universal truth that determines how the world works. But it's just that these different groups of people put it in different used different wrapping paper to explain or to do or whatever. Another thing that I realized, which is really interesting, is all of these super successful people, household names, or even other really successful people that are only in a specific niche that maybe only I would know about or other people would know about, all believed in God. They all had some sort of really strong faith. For example, like Russell Brunson is big in like the online marketing world. I used to look up to him a bit. You look at like Steph Curry, Kevin Hart, who else? Mark Wahlberg, Justin Bieber, like all these people who have accomplished incredible things that are successful by every stretch of the imagination have a strong faith. And so then it got me thinking, there's all these like other people, entrepreneurs too, like whatever niche, whatever business, whatever industry, whatever like you're into, look at some of the people who are the most successful and you will probably find that they have a strong faith. And so it got me thinking, and I was just like, all these people, I'm sitting here, I'm like, I don't believe in God. But then all of these people that are way fucking smarter than me and more successful believe in God. I'm like, so is it more reasonable to think that they're right than me? 'Cause they got a lot more of what I want and they're a lot more successful and better, like way more self-developed, have gone through way more life experience, probably just know internally, intuitively, way more fucking shit than I do, and they all believe in God. So it's like, maybe I should look into that. So anyways, that's kind of how I went through it. It's like almost like logic and reasoning is what initially made me not believe in God, but then funny enough, logic and reasoning is what like led me back around to the point where I'm now super open, and I do believe in God. I believe in that thing, and whether you want to call it, higher, source power, source universe, higher power, God, like whatever. I believe in that. I've seen it in real life. I've felt it deeply. So it's not something that I'm going to ignore. I'm just at this point, like, I guess you could just say I'm a religion curious. Right? Like I went to church for the first time recently. I'm going to probably be trying out different churches. And I'm not here to say that like, oh, I'm going to be a devout Christian or Catholic or this or Mormon or Muslim. Like, I don't know. I truly do not know if I'm going to subscribe to a specific belief system and a specific religion, but I'm certainly super open and going to be testing different things out. And one thing that I keep hearing when I talk to people who are more religious, as I have been more open to it recently, is they all say something along the lines of like, what matters more than your specific religion, what matters more than how often you show up to church is your personal relationship to God, right? So I'm also exploring that, being more open. I've prayed a couple times, like done some things like that. So I'm really interested to see how things change in my life for the better, and how, I guess, enlightening and freeing and awesome this relationship to God can be. And I think even like the relationships and the conversations that I've started from this is really good. And even if you want to take away just the like believing God side, you want to just remove that from certain religions. Like there are certain religions that have just so many positive elements. So many positive elements. Like I learned about the Mormon church and all that from a friend of mine who was Mormon. And I was shocked at how many things he told me. Like there was certainly things that I didn't jive with, I didn't agree with. But he told me all those things and I was just like, that's fucking dope. Like that's super positive, that's wholesome, that's amazing. So there's so many things. So anyways, I'm just rambling and yapping at this point, but that's where I'm at. Share your thoughts down below. Let me know what you think. Have you been on a similar journey? Are you more open than you used to be? Are you still not open to faith and believing in a God or something greater than yourself, more powerful, etc.? Let me know. Thanks for watching it this far. Appreciate you. Cheers.